Valera versus
Alrighty, so it's going to be Druid versus Rogue here. So Trump leading off with the Druid, and that has been a pretty consistent thing with the players that are playing the Druid, is that they're pretty confident in leading with that Druid. And double Sunwalker Healing Touch, not really the opening hand you want. I mean, this really isn't either. Faceless, Nourish, Wrath. Wrath is not a bad draw, but the Nourish and the Faceless are not going to be useful for quite some time. You definitely would have liked to get an Innervate or Wild Growth in there somewhere. At the same time, I mean, really nothing early to be happening on either side. It's probably just going to be starting off with a Hero Power tit for tat.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to come up with. The shift here is mainly because of the fact that I already have Auctioneer in my hand.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm thinking about digging for is Conceal. And then secondarily, the card I want to dig for the most is Preparation, because Preparation in combination with Gadget and Auctioneer is really where the combination of cards start to really chain off. And again, that Faded Knives sort of indicating that, again, I want to be digging for Conceal and I want to be digging for Preparation, and then using those to find the rest of the damage.
Now, my question to you is, where is placing the value basically on, because you could use that Shiv obviously to get the free card draw, the double card draw with that, which you got in there. So you think it's much more valuable to forego that and just try to search for that Conceal, search for the...
Yeah, I think searching for Preparation and Conceal end up being worth a little bit more. Again, because the reason is, once the card draw is only a finite amount, like I only have to find a certain amount of answers before I get to a point where I'm extremely comfortable taking over. And this is sort of, again, being a huge example of this.
Oh my God.
These preparations really start to accelerate this process, and once this gets rolling, it's really hard to stop.
Yeah, I mean, this is getting kind of crazy already. And I mean, what's your feeling on the coin working with the Auctioneer?
I like coin being a spell. I think if coin's not a spell, it ends up hurting things in the long term. It's sort of, this is one of the first games that I've ever played in terms of card games, where going second is actually an advantage. It's really rare that you can ever find that, except for like very specific matchups. But in this game, you actually can build your deck to function better when you're going second, and it's pretty hard to do in other card games.
Okay, so it looks like it's going to be pre-damage Wrath. Okay, so he doesn't want to take the damage to his face. Just kind of keep high HP against the Miracle Rogue. It makes sense. So he is going to have to, use that Keeper in order to do that. And Zerdrake looking like it perhaps is going to move. Shiv coming out instead, though. Just going to get that card draw. There's a Conceal, so pretty nice. I mean, you're going to be able to combo out the SI Agent, take that out with the Deadly Poison Dagger. And then your turn. So a pretty solid turn there. And now, I mean, we do have that Ancient of War available, and you have used 2 sacks. So you've got to be feeling pretty confident putting this down, I would imagine.
Right.
And especially if you don't decide to, if there's something you can do to deal with that this turn, being able to Faceless that next turn would be a very nice play.
Right. Like actually coming into this match, I wasn't sure what version of Druid he was playing.
Yeah.
And my thought process was that leading off with Druid into Preparation, into Sap, into so much damage and effectiveness afterwards was going to be able to really give me an advantage in this. So even though he plays this Ancient of War, and I have to use a lot of cards to kill it, I still feel pretty okay with it. And the main reason being because, again, I've just drawn so many cards at this point. I still have a second Auctioneer in my hand. I have a Conceal to go along with it. I feel okay with the amount of damage, even if I have to invest a lot of it into what would be killing 2 5/10s about to be. Naturally, the second one is a little bit of a problem for me, but as it stands, I was totally okay with the first one, and perhaps ended up making a slight mistake even by not making that nice advantage.
Yeah, I mean, the double Faceless there in his hand is pretty scary as well, because now if you can't deal with the 5/10, he's going to have another 5/10. So this is a pretty threatening board here from Trump, and I mean, we are going to see that second Auctioneer come down. The Preparation is going to drop, and Van Cleef a very nice draw here, because it could become a very powerful Van Cleef if you're able to get something rolling. It will be interesting to see exactly what's going to happen. Blade Fury coming out as well. The Cold Blood there. We have the Leroy. We have quite a lot of plays here. Looking like it's going to be the charge to finish that off. Very well played. And yet another draw from that Deadly Poison. So Conceal as well to finish things off. And just a huge amount of card draw now. You have to be already getting pretty low on cards, but now, I mean, are you feeling a little bit nervous at this point? Because it's like, you've already drawn so many of your cards. He's the 28 HP, and he has some big taunts.
Yeah, the second one of these 5/10s really put a huge speed bump in front of what my plan was, which was to burn through the first 5/10 and then just kind of keep going. So he's kind of just
First
kept
one
churning
turned
this
into
out.
3.
And what you end up seeing is that I have to use so much damage to kind of really not accomplish that much.
This guy's toast.
It's looking like a pretty bad position to be in. Like this, I have to use a Shadow Step in order to kill one of these, and that's 6 more potential damage in terms of burst that's gone from Leroy. So this deck doing pretty much exactly what it wants to be doing, which is making sure that it presses its advantage while it has it, and then the advantage that you get as a result of that is that your opponent has to invest so much damage into killing stuff that they actually don't have any way to kill you.
12-12. Pretty fearsome, but at the same time, does have that Sylvanas available. As
He's also
well
got
as
a keeper available too.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, he can silence it. He's obviously just going to silence it and then clear that out.
I must safeguard.
But I mean, pretty rough. Very likely just going to be the silence, attack the face with the Yeti, and then put down the Sunwalker, I would imagine. It seems like a pretty logical play there. Yeah, I think he's going to do that. I mean, he could obviously go for something different. He could mark for Wild Hero Power or something, but the Sunwalker seems like a very logical play. Especially just getting that extra damage. Putting down 12 HP is very scary, especially when you're about to hit fatigue.
Yeah, this is looking kind of bad. I kind of have almost no ways left in my deck to actually kill anything and then also kill him.
With both your Shadow Steps gone.
Right, both the Shadow Steps are gone.
Your Van Cleef is gone. Yeah, I mean, you have your Assassin's Blade in hand, but you've already used both your Deadly Poisons, if I'm not mistaken. So, really, there's not a lot you can get done here.
Now, that being said, I do have a pretty good board position actually heading into this turn.
The Starfall is pretty fearsome, though. But I mean, I guess it doesn't finish off everything. But Mark of the Wild would be pretty nice here as well. He could obviously go for the Nourish card draw, see if he gets anything better, then go for Starfall. I think he still has swipes in his deck, so pulling out a swipe would be pretty nice here. There are some different schools of thought. But I mean, there's a lot of viable options here. You could obviously go, Mark of the Wild, Hero Power, Starfall, that kind of stuff. Or you could go for the Nourish for the card draw, see what comes up. If you don't like what you see, then you can go Starfall again, finish something off with the Keeper. So a lot of different options here, and gonna look like he wants to start off with that Starfall. So if he's gonna Starfall first, I imagine he's not actually gonna Nourish. So he probably just wants to full board clear with the Hero Power plus the Keeper.
Right. Something else to consider here. This is giving me 2 cards, which actually now puts me to fatigue.
Yeah.
So another clock started in terms of where I have to go from killing him at this point.
And I mean, you just knowing what we know as far as what you've burned. I mean, this has to feel like almost a guaranteed win.
Yeah, I'm not feeling good if I'm sitting in my current position at the moment.
Yeah.
And
Now,
if you're sitting in Trump's position, something you have to think about is, at this point, your opponent's out of cards. The only really gold that you have is just not dying.
Yep.
And then fatigue will just continue.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you don't. The fatigue damage doubles and stuff. It keeps increasing. Turn 1 fatigue, then 2 fatigue. It keeps going up and up. So there's just really no play here. I mean, what can you do? You can cold blood and try to take it out that way. You could go for the Leroy. You could do Assassin's Blade, but I mean, a Vis plus something. But it just seems like there's almost no real way here to ever deal that 22 damage. It's looking pretty grim. Pretty grim here.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
To be able to do anything. There's just no way that really you can climb out of that.
Yeah, I mean, with no cards.
Yeah, no cards in the deck. There's a second clock going on here. So sort of like a really big key from this matchup that I think a lot of people can take away is that even though I had such an explosive start with these saps, it goes to show you how important that 1 or 2